Good morning. Welcome to Indonesia Pavilion on this beautiful Saturday morning. I would like to invite all the audience participants who sit at the back. Would you please move forward? So please fill in the front seat before the last, and we're going to leave the seat at the back for other audience who's going to join us later on. So if you could kindly move forward and fill in the front seat. Thank you. Okay, today we'll be talking about around the topic on how to sustain our seas and partnerships for a thriving blue carbon economy. So we all know coastal and marine ecosystems are among the most efficient carbon sinks on Earth. However, these ecosystems are facing significant threats due to several factors. So the next question is, what can we do to address marine ecosystems threats and conserving biodiversity? So on this session, we're going to gain a better understanding on blue carbon economy, explore the blue carbon economy's potential, also to learn successful partnership model to foster collaborative efforts in sustaining a healthy ocean. To commence our session today, please welcome our keynote speaker. He's the acting advisor to Minister on Economic Sociology and Cultural Affairs from MMAF Indonesia. Please welcome Bapak Hendra Yusran Siri.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good Saturday morning. Distinguished guest speaker, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I think it is a great pleasure and honor to address you today in these important panel sessions on sustaining our seas partnerships for thriving blue carbon economy. I would like to mention here that I stand before you as we collectively recognize that importance of our coastal and marine ecosystem that we so-called blue carbon ecosystem. It's not only a source of unparalleled natural beauty, but also as a fundamental pillar for sustaining life and its role in climate change. Mangrove and seagrass as a coastal forest act as a powerful carbon sinks, sequestering vast amount of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, up to the 10 times faster than a mature terrestrial forest. Indeed, both ecosystems are essential for marine biodiversity and provide a fertile nursery ground for countless species. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, as the largest archipelagic state with the 23% coverage of the global mangrove and among the top 5 ranked countries with the largest seagrass area, Indonesia has a unique position to lead the thriving of the blue carbon economy. There are various perspectives on the blue carbon as an important part of the blue economy. It can be considered as a mechanism to move forward lower carbon economies and also an economic value through the formulation of other services such as nutrient filtration, coastal protection, and tourism. And all of this rely on the existence of the healthy blue carbon ecosystem that form the natural capital from which valuation is generated. Considering this, we view that blue carbon meets all 3 of the essential elements of sustainability: economic, environmental, and also social, and therefore should be framed as an essential component of the blue economy. The blue carbon economy encompasses the economic activities that contribute to the conservation, restoration, and sustainable use of the coastal and marine ecosystem that store carbon. These include activities like mangrove restorations and also seagrass meadow protection. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that the blue economy is a balanced approach to sustaining ecology and economy. Therefore, the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries Indonesia implement a blue economy strategy through the 5 priority program. First, mention and ecology, expansion of the marine protected areas Second, quota-based fishing capture. The third, sustainable aquaculture. Four, monitoring and surveillance of coastal and small island areas. And last, five is clean up plastic waste in the sea through the fishermen participation. Blue carbon management in the context of the climate change is important part of the blue economy policy, especially the first and the fourth policy, as I mentioned before. By expanding the marine protected areas and applying surveillance and control of small islands, we can ensure the existence of the blue carbon ecosystem for thriving blue economy. Ladies and gentlemen, sustaining our sea requires a collective commitment to action. It demands that we transcend individual interests and work together to ensure the vitality of our ocean for the generation to come. Let's use this platform to share insight, foster partnerships, and catalyze the transformative change needed to build a thriving blue carbon economy as one of the benefit humanity and also preserve the irreplicable wonder of our oceans. Let me conclude my remark by emphasizing that we need to share our commitment and collective action to safeguard our blue carbon ecosystem. It because we cannot solve the climate crisis without preserving the blue carbon ecosystem, and I believe that by implementing this, we can create a future where our oceans are thriving, our climate is stabilized, and our communities prosper. Thank you. Terima kasih. Syukron. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak Hendra, for the warm opening remarks. Okay, let's commence the discussion by inviting our moderator. But before that, I would kindly invite all the audience who still sits at the back, please fill in the front seats, and we'll leave the back seat for the guests who will join us later. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Okay. Our moderator, she is the Deputy Director for Disaster Mitigation and Climate Change Adaptation from the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries, Republic of Indonesia. Please welcome Fegi Nurhapni.
Good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome, dear colleagues and ladies and gentlemen, to the session of Sustaining Our Sea, Partnership for a Thriving Blue Carbon Economy. My name is Fegi Nurhapni from the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries, and today I will be your moderator for our exciting session with our panelists. We will explore how partnership can contribute to a thriving blue carbon economy where sustainability and economic growth can go hand in hand. And before we start our discussion, we would like to ask you to watch a video on Seagrass Blue Carbon Mitigation Action Profile from the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries. Host, you can play the video now. Thank you.
As one of the major blue carbon ecosystem, seagrass ecosystem is an efficient nature-based solution for climate change mitigation, as it stores 3 times higher of carbon stock compared to equivalent areal extent of terrestrial forest. Indonesia's seagrass covers around 11.5% of the world's seagrass meadows. Activities in seagrass ecosystem that produce emissions include excavation, dredging, and mariculture. The analysis began by overlaying current seagrass map of Indonesia with activity data located in coastal area. The activity data came in the forms of marine spatial use, like seaports, dumping sites, or land reclamation sites. The overlay analysis resulted in carbon emission values from the loss of seagrass meadows due to anthropogenic coastal activities. We then extrapolated this carbon emission values to generate our baseline emission scenario, where seagrass degradation continues taking place. Additionally, we also provide nitrous oxide, or NO2 emission, coming from mariculture production. From baseline emission scenario, we developed mitigation scenarios for reducing emission by intervening regulation on marine space utilization and by conducting seagrass restoration. With these mitigation scenarios, we project a significant reduction in carbon emissions coming from seagrass degradation by 2030. We encourage the public to join our efforts in seagrass conservation and data collection through our monitoring, reporting, and verification system set up at the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries. For this system, we developed user-friendly apps to give the public easier access to actively join actions against climate change by implementing nature-based principles of blue carbon. Finally, we are establishing the Blue Carbon Room, a centralized and dedicated space to monitor all ongoing activities related to blue carbon all over Indonesia.
Well, I hope that video can provide us some background for today's discussion and what is blue carbon and what we are doing right now in Indonesia. And now I would like to invite our panelists to join me on the stage. Please, Pak Yusuf, Stephen, Kimberly, and Emily, please. If you want to sit up, yeah, okay. No, it's okay. I mean, it's like a ladies' block and gentlemen blocks, yes. Okay. Now it's okay. Okay. Okay, let me start with Pak Yusuf. Bapak Muhammad Yusuf is the Director for Coastal and Small Island Utilization at the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries. And he will present about the blue carbon ecosystem and its significance in addressing climate change and also the current Indonesia policy on blue carbon. Pak Yusuf, you have 10 minutes, Pak. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Peggy, for the introduction. Good morning, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for me to be here speaking about the unveiling the blue carbon economy on behalf of the government of Indonesia. Second slide, please. Second slide, please. Okay. As the national coordinator for the ocean climate issue, the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries set our eyes on the blue carbon ecosystem as a means to reduce GHG emission as well as to increase community resilience. According to regarding to the research of the Alongi et al. 2015, you can see in the slide, the blue line and the green line, it means the mangrove and the seagrass line ecosystem. It means that in Indonesia, the seagrass, the mangrove is very potential, it's very huge ecosystem. It's roughly 17% of world's blue carbon reservoir in Indonesia. It's very huge number. Therefore, Indonesia, just like any other maritime nation, put a lot of attention on blue carbon ecosystem. You can see in this slide, the blue carbon ecosystem, mangrove, seagrass, and salt marsh, but Indonesia don't have salt marsh, are said can sequester carbon up to 4 times if we compare to the terrestrial forest. You can see that the mangrove and seagrass can sequester more 4 times from the terrestrial forest. You can see in this slide, even the seagrass is a grass, but it can sequester more than the terrestrial. You can see there is a 500 ton carbon equivalent can sink if we compare to the terrestrial, just 200. But in biomass, we can there's not significant. There's 11 than 600, but they can keep it in the sediment and the soil. if we talking about the blue carbon and NDC, last year Indonesia published its enhanced NDC. It's increased Indonesia ambition in reduction GHG emission up to 31.8% unconditionally and 43.2% conditionally. In this NDC, above ground biomass of the mangrove has already been counted under the forest and other land use sector. On the other hand, seagrass still in the measurement process and targeted to be part of Indonesia's second NDC in 2025 or sooner. In the term of adaptation, coastal ecosystem, including blue carbon, are part of the ecosystem and landscape resilience. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, under the presidential regulation number 98/2021 on carbon trade pricing, Indonesia set up its mechanism for carbon trade, result-based payment and carbon tax. For carbon trade, last September, our President, His Excellency Joko Widodo, just launched carbon exchange called IDX Carbon. At the initial trading, the transaction must leave from the carbon credit of energy sector and sold very cheap, I think, $5 per ton CO2 equivalent. Other mechanism that has already taken place in result-based payment mechanism early this year, Indonesia has its first payment for RED Plus scheme on forest in East Kalimantan. I will try to concise my seeking for advice from other fellow speaker today, how to maximize the blue carbon economic value to increase coastal community welfare. We want to make sure that if we or some point will have to sell our carbon, it will be valued as a premium carbon with a great price that can be used to support the local development. If we compare to the handbag, we want to produce a premium, branded, and luxurious handbag, not just an ordinary one. How can we get there? I hope my fellow speaker here can broaden our horizon on this issue. I thank you for your kind attention. Back to Peggy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Yusuf, for your interesting presentation. And now we are going to our second speaker. That will be Emily. Emily Kelly leads the Blue Carbon Action Partnership at the World Economic Forum, seeking to scale blue carbon benefits through coordinated action to unlock finance, strengthen science, and empower local communities. Emily, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to be here with esteemed colleagues. Very happy to get to speak about this, and particularly thrilled because we have strengthened our partnership with the government of Indonesia to be launching a national blue carbon action partnership. And so I'm going to speak a little bit about that, but also more broadly, and hopefully touch on some of the discussion points that were raised just now. So to start talking about the power of partnerships as catalysts for change, I think this will likely continue to arise in all our conversations, and I'm sure are already on everyone's minds. But I love to start discussions talking about blue carbon ecosystems by highlighting that, of course, when we talk about these wonderful ecosystems, carbon is but one of the myriad of benefits that come with them. And so in addition to the very strong ability to capture carbon and in fact greater in some cases than terrestrial forests, we know these ecosystems to also be very important to livelihoods, food security, biodiversity, storm protection, flood protection, and many other pieces. And so really these ecosystems and the conservation and restoration of them are benefits to people, biodiversity, nature, planet, climate, et cetera. So it's really thrilling to get to talk about them and to think about how we can work collectively to drive investment into these ecosystems for the benefit of all of those different parties. And the reason that I like to think about the suite of benefits so often is that I think we talk about what portfolio of financing options might be available as a result of those myriad benefits. So the power of carbon markets is, of course, incredibly strong, and those are one way, and a very powerful way, to bring investment into these ecosystems. And then I love to be having conversations at COP and elsewhere, and would welcome further conversations after this session and with the panelists about what does that also mean for other types of financing mechanisms. So if there's, first, these ecosystems exist often at land-sea interfaces, particularly mangroves. Importantly, seagrass beds also provide a lot of carbon benefit, and they can also be home to fisheries. I'm excited about the lively discussion that's happening behind us as well. Maybe they're also talking about blue carbon ecosystems. One of the things that the World Economic Forum likes to think about is across these public-private philanthropic partnerships and how we might be able to leverage those to, again, support both communities, biodiversity, and planet. And so some of the other benefits might be of greater interest in terms of corporate investment or philanthropic investment. How do the project developers interface? So there are a lot of partnerships that exist here, and I just wanted to highlight that there are sort of a myriad of partners in addition to those that are strictly engaged in the carbon element. There are also a lot of partnerships that are important as we think about what high quality is. And I'm sure that many have thought about what is less high quality, and there have been challenges associated with that. And how do we move forward in the most high quality way? The very fancy purse analogy, I think that's so fabulous, because these are ecosystems that provide, you know, everything. They have all the fancy elements that we want to be able to include. So if we're not talking explicitly about a biodiversity credit, which maybe we could be, but these ecosystems incorporate so much, they internalize many of the other elements and these other benefits. So just wanted to highlight that we have the high quality blue carbon principles and guidance that we launched actually last year at COP. I'm including here QR codes if you wanted to download them. They're available in English, in Bahasa, in many languages, and would welcome to have more discussion about this. This is, again, another opportunity to highlight partnerships. This project is looking into, this report has now provided both high-quality ways to engage as a project developer and high-quality ways to engage as an investor, and is the result of many, many, many different collaborative sessions and consultative process to get to this point. So the forum was very pleased to be a part of it, also with Salesforce, Conservation International, the Nature Conservancy, and Meridian Institute as a delivery partner. So as we think about these high-quality projects, I wanted to speak a little bit more about some of the partnerships that the forum is able to bring in high-quality projects. And I'll start by pointing to some of the corporate action that we have within our community. 1T.org is our Trillion Trees initiative with whom we collaborate in the Blue Carbon Action Partnership. And I'm going to highlight 3 different companies that have made pledges under 1T in mangroves. Particularly because this is the Trillion Trees initiative. So we need to start a Trillion Grasses initiative also, I think. But that's part of what we're also talking about on the Blue Carbon Action Partnership. So I'll get to seagrasses again in a moment. But highlighting a few of the partnerships that our corporates have created in order to get to high quality investment and nature positive investment. So the first that I'll highlight is through Salesforce. As part of their 1T pledge, Salesforce has funded the restoration of over 3 million mangroves and a total of 68,000 hectares under conservation and restoration in 15 different countries across the globe. And with Wetlands International, they organized a series of exchange visits in 2022 to work with practitioners and development partners in 11 countries to advance learning and replication of best mangrove conservation and restoration practices in Africa's West Indian Ocean and the Atlantic regions. Our partner by Ku is the leading integrated online and offline platform for housing transactions and services. And they pledged with their Blue Ocean campaign. So customers who have taken low carbon behaviors can apply for tree planting individually or with others to support mangrove protection and restoration in Fijian coastal wetlands. And in May of 2023, the outstanding project representatives gathered from all over the country to clean up floating ocean garbage and experience mangrove planting, sowing good wishes for Baiku for low carbon development. And Ericsson has pledged through their Connective Mangroves program in the Philippines, Malaysia, and in India. And it's a volunteer program with a mission to improve the survival rate through technology, combining mobile broadband and IoT solutions to track soil and water conditions, obtaining data to better manage the planting site. And in 2 years, they've reached an 80% survival rate. Ericsson is also tracking biodiversity data with AI technologies in the areas where they plant mangroves. Just wanted to highlight, these are a few of the corporate actions that we've seen, and I think there's much more to come in terms of our corporates are very interested and hungry for high quality projects across ecosystems. Again, because I'm talking about our Trillion Trees initiative, it's mangrove focused, but it's certainly not limited to that, and there's a lot of interest below the tide as well for seagrasses. So welcome discussion with all of you as we think about new partnerships where we can connect our corporates with really high quality projects. I wanted to talk, again, because this is a partnership discussion, about a global partnership also. And Indonesia, of course, is one of the members of MAC, which is a founding partner for the ocean breakthrough, specifically, for the mangrove breakthrough, one of the ocean breakthroughs launched by the UN FCCC high-level champions. And this, in collaboration with the Global Mangrove Alliance, is a call for all of us to mobilize $4 billion for mangrove restoration and conservation by 2030. And it's an exciting global partnership, and I wanted to highlight it here because I think all of the actions that we all are taking can help to achieve this goal. And it will be global partnerships that help us through all of our blue carbon action, be it through mangroves or through seagrasses, in terms of sharing our lessons learned and also sharing our collective ideas about creative financing. I wanted to speak a little bit now about how our National Blue Carbon Action Partnership works. And again, we're so thrilled to be working with Indonesia as our first National Blue Carbon Action Partnership. The Global Blue Carbon Action Partnership works at two scales. The first is with these national partnerships, working with governments in achieving their blue carbon ambitions. And the second is operating at a global level to work with partners across sectors to tackle challenges in finance, policy, data, science, governance, et cetera. And I think at the top of our list is this finance component right now. I just wanted to mention sort of the sort of action parts of how we think about the NBCAPs. And the key here is for creating, coordinating, leading, engaging, and scaling. And I might focus on a few of these parts. One is coordinating across existing blue carbon, mangrove, seagrass initiatives, and finding synergies in existing programs. So the NBCAP is really aimed to be a coordinating body that is helping to connect and provide some human capacity to add to what is already happening and make sure that there is coordination and benefit from working across all initiatives. And then leading, I wanted to emphasize, because Indonesia is such a leader in so many different spaces, and we were chatting just before this session about how, for example, including seagrasses in the NDCs is such an important next step that many countries will be looking towards. And so how do we help to connect? How do we help Indonesia be able to share their story with other countries that are interested in following their lead? And then thinking about engaging across stakeholders, again, pointing to the partnerships that exist importantly across the private sector, the public sector, also with communities and civil society. And finally, I think the point of scaling is one that is such a challenge when we're trying to think about how we get investment into these ecosystems and how we do it quickly so that our climate action is able to benefit us in the very near term. Ooh, thanks so much.
Thank you, Emily. Very interesting presentation, especially with some example of partnership that already happens and ongoing. So yeah, maybe we can learn something from that. And then next we have our third speaker, Mr. Stephen Lutz. Stephen is the acting head of the Marine Program and Blue Carbon Lead for Grid Arendal, a Norwegian foundation and partner of the United Nations Environment Program. With over 14 years of experience in blue carbon, his project spanned from the 2012 Abu Dhabi Blue Carbon Demonstration Project to the current Indonesia High Integrity Blue Carbon Market Project. Very interesting, Stephen. You have 10 minutes for your speak.
I thought I had 15, but I'll talk fast, I suppose. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the Indonesian Pavilion, the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries, and yourself for organizing this fantastic session. So essentially, Pak Hendra mentioned how blue carbon is a mechanism to support sustainability. However, challenges are involved with any market approach. So a business plan for maximizing return and minimizing risk may be needed. And this presentation is a reflection on that. Next slide. So just a little background. Oh, I do? So I'm talking to myself. Huh, okay, good. Okay, so just a little background on Grid Arendal in 2009 published the Blue Carbon Report with the United Nations Environment Program, which helped launch the blue carbon, field. And we've been advancing blue carbon in coasts and oceans since 2011, starting with the Abu Dhabi Blue Carbon Demonstration Project, which was, and I have to say this since we are in the UAE, which was the first sort of large-scale exploration of blue carbon and other ecosystem values. This project was replicated throughout the Emirates. It was included as the first project to be recognized in an NDC. So we're very proud of this project and its impact. Also part of our learnings from Grid Arendal are the UNEP-GEF Blue Forest project, which I developed and coordinated on behalf of the United Nations Environment Program. This had many partners. The main key leads back in the day. It was implemented from 2014 to 2021. And the question it was answering is, how can the value of blue carbon be harnessed in policy and management to support conservation and climate action? We also supported quite a bit of engagement at the UNFCCC through this project as well, and piloted blue carbon on the voluntary carbon market through projects in Kenya, which I'll describe in a wee bit. So this was part of the theory of change of the Blue Forest Project, and I think this still rings true today, is how are there different pathways for utilizing this value of blue carbon into policy and management through carbon finance, in addressing national policy and management goals, international commitments, or other mechanisms such as blue bonds and other things that have come up recently. Okay, so let me just check minutes here. So since late 2021, the price of nature-based carbon offsets has dramatically increased. And by 2015, carbon offsets are expected to be a $550 billion market. Well, since 2021, there's been an increasing demand for blue carbon projects. These projects are seen as highly valuable because of the benefits that they have. Blue carbon has been advertised very well since its introduction in 2009. So now there's a high demand, but obviously there's, the market's finding that there's not that many of these projects out there, so there's a drive to develop them. Okay? However, the integrity of nature-based carbon marketing has been called into question earlier this year. The Guardian reported on some research calling into question the benefits or the carbon benefits from terrestrial forestry carbon projects. These include problems with their certifications, leading to their climate claims being fraudulent or potentially worthless. Obviously, Vera disputes these claims. But in any case, there's other allegations out there, like the potential exploitation of indigenous populations, and this is not good because carbon really has to be sequestered to be a real part of the solution to climate change, for the market to be a real part. And a danger for blue carbon is that we don't learn the lessons from terrestrial carbon projects and repeat those mistakes. Because frankly, there is not a blue carbon market. There is one voluntary carbon market that blue carbon will enter into. So I think there's lots of things that we can learn from how nature-based offsetting has been advanced. So you ask, okay, what do they sell? Well, these projects are seen as high value because they sell benefits in carbon, community, and biodiversity. Here we have a little advertising brochure from one of our projects that we helped set up in Kenya. So experience from the Blue Forest Project and our Kenyan partners shows us that community-based blue carbon market projects can work. So one such project is Mikoko Pamoja in Kenya. It's a very small-scale project, only 117 hectares, but it was the first project that introduced blue carbon to the voluntary carbon market. The communities that are associated with this project undertake mangrove conservation and restoration activities, which is then valued in terms of the carbon offsets and sold on the voluntary carbon market. Revenue or profit from this project has supported those conservation activities, and then it has supported community benefit activities, like the building of freshwater wells and the buying of school books for local children. I could go on more with those benefits, but I'm running out of time. Okay, so how do they do that? Well, here we have the financial flow, or the financial mechanism for how this is set up for our Kenyan projects, Mikoko Pamoja and Vanga Blue Forests. And what you have here is, let's say, the key parts here are 60% of the revenue are held back for community benefit. And the government, in this case, did not take any percentage cut of the revenue coming from the voluntary carbon market. This has enabled a lot of those revenue to go towards the communities. And in this case, actually, the percentage of revenues that these communities have realized has been from 60 to 80% of the revenue, which is quite a large amount. We tried this approach in Madagascar as well. However, after the project was negotiated with Plan Vivo, the government decided to essentially enact a 27% tax on the project. And what that means is that if you have a 60% mandated amount for the community plus 27, there's not enough to support the 5-year verification on that project. So this project in Madagascar right now is not trading any carbon offsets because of that. So these amounts matter. And I'm going to give a wee bit about the blue carbon market in Japan, but I really shouldn't be, because we have the expert Atsushi Watambi in the audience. He should really be giving this slide and not me. So I beg your forgiveness. But in any case, there's another a model that we have there. Japan has a thriving and burgeoning internal blue carbon market where seagrass and macroalgae carbon projects are being supported. These are small scale, but the take-home message there is that it's working, and the revenue that is being generated there is around $500 per ton. Quite a bit more than what is being currently realized in Indonesia, so very interesting. Okay. And other financial models exist. So I'm just going to give a little sort of brief overview. So there are projects out there that, if private investment, that may want 50% of the revenue from these projects for the lifespan of the project, which is 25 years. Or the community may be receiving benefit from these projects as daily laborers. So really the way that these finances are set up and these projects are implemented can have big impacts on the sustainability of these projects. And I would ask that, if we look at these sort of financial allocations, do these different types of financial allocations, can they tell us different things about the quality of the project or the integrity of the project? And should that be looked at? Okay? So right now, the market of blue carbon is very new. It's kind of like an airplane that has taken off from the runway without connection to the radar or ground control. Okay? Right now, we are experiencing the wild west of the blue carbon market. The market is opaque, hard to access. Broker pressures are potentially causing local conflicts. And I recently met with the community associations, and their term for these brokers or hustlers are coyotes. Okay? But also, please note, the market is not there to govern these ecosystems. It's a tool to be used to support conservation and restoration. Governance is the role of governments, okay? And there's no question that these projects are going to have impacts on the socioeconomic milieu of coastal communities. Here we have a slide from indigenous communities in Fiji which clearly illustrates who uses these coastal resources and who benefits from them, okay? Women are primarily the ones that are using the mangrove resources, but this may change, excuse me, when blue carbon now makes that activity more valuable. So blue carbon market projects could reinforce existing gender equalities. It may redefine women and men's gender roles and relations. So it's under this context that the Indonesia High Integrity Blue Carbon Market Project has been developed. This project is made possible support from the Norwegian Oceans for Development Program and supports a bilateral agreement and a request for technical support from the Government of Indonesia to the Government of Norway through the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries. The ambition of this project is that Indonesia develops a robust and high-integrity blue carbon market with increased and verifiable carbon sequestration and measurable and meaningful benefit for coastal communities. We want to help you develop that designer handbag that you spoke about earlier, okay? Ultimately, what we're talking about is the integrity of the market. Can these projects work across the board? The price of carbon in the voluntary carbon market is negotiated between the buyer and the seller. It depends on the type of offset project, the carbon standard, and other measurements, okay? However, in this case, carbon is essentially measured, okay? The other key benefits that these offsets provide are usually reported in narrative format, okay? So from our other side events and from our earlier presenter, Emily, we've heard about high quality blue carbon. But my question is, how do we actually measure that? It's one thing to say high quality, but if you don't actually measure it, can you really actually call it high quality? Okay? And you may ask, is there an appetite for high integrity? Well, here we have a slide. It's Microsoft's internal guidance on carbon offsetting. Projects that avoid negative impacts to communities and promote equity are given priority for investment. In other words, there is potentially a market for this premium brand that Indonesia would like to offer. It is clear that multiple types of blue carbon offsets are already on the market. However, from our experiences, we already really know what high value or high integrity offsets are. They deliver on carbon, communities, and biodiversity. Regulation is the role of governments, and it may be that the current actors or the current blue carbon scene needs to expand our expertise and learn the lessons from terrestrial carbon offsets. The image on this is my last slide, don't worry. The image on the wall here is from the Vanga Bay Community Association in Kenya. I took that last year when I engaged with the community. Right on the wall for everyone to see are the finances from the selling of the blue carbon offsets. Every Kenyan shilling is accounted for and is illustrated to every member of that community. The community is the #1 supporter of this project. If a coastal community in Kenya can show this level of transparency and make the blue carbon market work for themselves, then why not other blue carbon projects? Thank you.
Give applause for Stephen. Thank you, Stephen. Yeah. And next we have Kimberly Todd from the UNDP. Kim is a Global Technical Advisor for UNDP Climate Promise Project, and she will give a presentation on policy and advocacy shaping the blue carbon economy agenda. Time is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. So I will dive right in. So I'll cover 3 topics, just a bit more about the momentum and the sort of context for the blue carbon economy agenda, the importance of science-based decisions, and sort of examples of global successes in this first bit. So I think you've heard quite a bit already, and I think many here are already familiar with the multiple benefits, right, that blue carbon offers beyond carbon. So just to give a bit on the people side of the story, just wanted to mention some numbers and figures. So there are about 12,510 villages along the coastal areas of Indonesia, and so the livelihoods are, of course, hinging on the coastal resources for sustainability. But of course, there's also heightened vulnerability to the impacts of climate change, rising sea levels, flooding, and as one of the world's most susceptible nations to climate change, Indonesia is projected to witness adverse effects of coastal flooding affecting approximately 5.9 million people. So this is really, just to keep this in mind, as part of the context that's really driving the momentum behind this blue carbon agenda. So what is the role of policymakers in this? So to address this challenge, we really need this expeditious promotion of the blue carbon economy agenda, and policy advocacy is one key tool in the toolbox to move things forward, right? And so policymakers play a key role in this, looking at identifying gaps, evaluating effectiveness of the various financing instruments, the tools, navigating the various challenges and opportunities inherent in policy formulation. And so in this case, in particular, blue carbon, of course, this is a delicate balance between ecological conservation goals, economic interests, and really requires a proactive search for innovative solutions, a lot of solutions which you're hearing about already. So I think we're all familiar with this, and of course, especially key when we're thinking about carbon markets and robust methodologies, but just to mention the high importance of policy decisions being based on robust science, right? And oftentimes this may be incomplete science, we may have data gaps, but the importance of improving that data alongside the piloting of these mechanisms and approaches, that is really key. So in terms of various successes, so there are various success stories from regions that are implementing effective policies in the area of blue carbon, and these are really useful lessons to sort of for other countries to be able to look to, and in order to replicate and scale up across countries globally. So we have just sort of just quickly in terms of categories, in the case of Southeast Asia, regionally, the restoration of mangrove ecosystems throughout the region really stands to serve as a model of success. Different types of policies to promote that protection and rehabilitation that leads to positive environmental outcomes that then, of course, lays the groundwork if tools such as carbon markets, carbon finance want to be looked to. You need to be having that impact, right, to ensure you have that carbon mitigation benefit. So well implemented policies are key here. And then in the Caribbean, another related example is implementing sustainable fishing practices, and that offers valuable lessons as well. Marine protected areas, community-based management, lots of great examples in this region as well to look to. Okay, so next I wanted to speak quickly to the important role of advocacy. And so there are three components here: building public awareness, the importance of thinking of these activities and interventions as long-term investments, and the importance of collaborative efforts. So in terms of building public awareness, advocacy can really emerge as a catalyst for positive policy change in blue carbon and conservation in this area. So one initiative, for example, such as the Global Mangrove Alliance, has effectively shaped public opinion and influenced transformative legislative and regulatory measures. Excuse me. Okay, and then as mentioned, the importance of looking at all of this in terms of long-term investments. So looking at the benefits, extending beyond the immediate gains, and being able to assess and take into consideration the positive consequences for various stakeholders over time. And the example of seagrass, which you've seen in the video at the start of the event, and which has been spoken about since by my fellow panelists, is really an excellent type of sort of blue carbon illustration, illustrating the delicate balance between looking at economic interests and looking at the benefits over time for multiple stakeholders. Now I'd just like to speak to some collaborative efforts. So obviously this is a complex area of work, and so there's a real necessity for collaborative efforts that involve various stakeholders. So NGOs, local communities, businesses, all coming together to address these challenges, of course. And acknowledging these challenges when we're bringing together the various perspectives and views. UNDP really plays a role in sort of facilitating that cooperation among stakeholders in these types of initiatives that are dealing with climate change and environmental sustainability. So one example I wanted to mention is, for example, UNDP supported the development of the Blue Sukuk, which is a pioneering bond in collaboration with various partners as a means of financing the blue carbon economy agenda. And I think this is quite interesting because I think we hear quite a bit about carbon markets, and there's a lot of potential there. But thinking about sort of a variety of innovative financing tools alongside each other, and what financial tool may be or approach may be best suited for what policy option, right? So that's sort of work that's alongside these other financing tools. Next slide. Okay, I just wanted to speak a bit then on these last few slides about the importance of collaboration across the various scales. So globally, regionally, and nationally. So at the global level, of course, I don't think I need to say much about this. I think everyone is familiar with the sort of, the key international agreements that form the foundation, form the context for this work, right? So we're cutting across the various conventions: Paris Agreement, Convention on Biological Diversity, and Ramsar Convention. So countries are, implementing their national priorities and targets and goals in line with these various conventions. Then at the regional level, a lot of interesting collaboration on various initiatives. So one example is the Micronesia Challenge, a regional conservation initiative that involves several Pacific Island nations, including Micronesia, Palau, Marshall Islands, and several others. And this was an initiative launched in 2006 with the aim of conserving the region's marine and coastal resources. And then finally, at the national level, just wanted to mention, I think I fell behind in my slides. No, okay. At the national level, one example of a collaborative effort is the ongoing efforts in Indonesia by the Marine and Fisheries Affairs Ministry, MMAF, in Indonesia. And so this is supported by the Climate Promise Project in UNDP, and it focuses on the conservation of seagrass as a blue carbon initiative. And it's looking at, the contribution that seagrass can make to the next nationally determined contribution target, which I think has already been mentioned earlier. Okay, next slide. I just have a couple more. Sorry, I'm going back. Forward. Okay. Nope. Sorry. Okay, so in the global landscape, there are several initiatives that I also wanted to mention. One notable example is the AIS Forum, initiated by UNDP Indonesia. And this forum offers countries opportunities to come together and align their policies with international frameworks. Coming together to exchange lessons and experiences to integrate blue carbon conservation into their national climate action plans. And then finally, extending beyond the AIS Forum, Indonesia, as a member of ASEAN, has the potential to spearhead initiatives among these member countries at this level. So it provides another forum to exchange on the benefits of blue carbon conservation across borders and emphasizing a shared responsibility and interconnectedness of the region in addressing these challenges. So I think, yeah, I will end there and just say we are, yeah, very happy and proud as UNDP to be a partner of Indonesia in supporting this work. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Can I have a round of applause for all our panelists? Thank you. Thank you, panelists, for your insightful thoughts and also partnership on blue carbon economy. And let's move on to the next stage. Is it a question and answer session? And is there any question from the audience? Okay, we have one there. Is there another one? We have like 20 minutes. So, yeah. Can we give the mic to the lady? Yeah.
Hello. I should have stayed in the Indonesia pavilion for the whole week when I'm here because it's the second session I'm attending and it's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. My name is Lena Michenkova. I'm a founder of Vlinda, and we are mangrove reforestation project developer. We are in Kenya, so Stefan, I would love to have a couple of your slides to have a closer look. We know Mikoko Pamoja. We are in Kwale, just next door from you. And we are those who actually work on the ground and do what you are mentioning when you say we need a high-quality carbon project. So we come to the ground, we talk to communities, we build capacities, we upskill communities, we educate them, or we design a project together with them. We find out how we finance the greenfield, because it's really hard, and probably Stefan will know how hard it is to finance it from the very beginning. Then when we are big, when we are registered, when we are issuing, the big money will come and everything will be good. So probably I will have this conversation on the initial greenfield or initial investment and pre-issuance investment funding with you later. But my question would be around something else. When we come to a project, when we come to a certain country to talk about a project, it would be very often that the government haven't yet figured out the legislation around carbon. Indonesia is pioneering the space. Indonesia has got the legislation. Now you just need the second step to start implementing it, but you will come. Indonesia is also amazing on the educational side, and I mentioned it yesterday at the panel discussion that, look, we come and we see that people on the ground know everything about mangrove reforestation and about carbon, and they approach us so that we could help them to bootstrap the project. But maybe to Kimberly and to Emily, we are talking to West African countries which don't know what to do with their legislation. And what we feel and what we see, they need a platform to sit down with probably not only governmental consultants, but also other stakeholders like investors, project developers, community representatives, so that they could start talking about carbon legislation. And I have a couple of practical questions from Togo, from Papua New Guinea and other Western African countries. Where do we go? Where do we go for funding? Where do we go for capacity building? What can I recommend? Thank you. Sorry, it was too long.
Okay, thank you. You're not specific, you have any specific panelists? Okay, that's for you. Kim and Emily, you can respond to that. Yeah, it's on.
Is this on? Yes, okay. Yes, maybe I can start quickly. And I should have caveated that I am not a blue carbon specialist. I'm here on behalf of colleagues, so I work in the forest sector. But I can say maybe a bit on the broader legislative frameworks. And maybe just what I wanted to say was the importance of framing this within the context of the country's nationally determined contribution, right? Because that process is a national process, has the political momentum, the buy-in across, cross sectors, brings in stakeholders from various perspectives that often offers the platform where those foundational sort of legislative sort of changes and processes can be put into place to lay the foundation then, to move forward with a given carbon finance, tool or stream or whatnot. So I think it's important to sort of not necessarily engage in perhaps, more of these one-off discussions on a carbon market engagement over here, but the NDC provides a nice central platform to say, how does this all fit in with where we want to go as a country, right? How we want to meet our goals, the tons available to meet our targets versus what may be ready to enter the market and so on. So maybe just to stress the importance of the NDC as a central platform. Yeah, thanks.
I'll, from the forum side, add to that wonderful point that the goal for the National Blue Carbon Action Partnerships that the forum is supporting is actually to do some of that coordination that you're speaking about and to support through a secretariat that's established in country to be able to coordinate across all of the different government entities that are working in blue carbon. As we know, of course, these ecosystems are cross-ministerial in terms of their jurisdiction. And then also to engage other stakeholders in that process for thinking about a roadmap of where a country would like to take and those within a broader stakeholder group would like to take their blue carbon goals. So I think it's very important work. I'm not offering you as a lovely concrete answer as Kimberly has alluded to, but noting that this is certainly a process that I know many countries are interested in. We're very excited to be engaging. And I think there are a lot of partners that are looking to be supporting on this because, of course, this is a huge challenge. There are a lot of challenges to getting to the point of being able to scale. And one of them is just having enough of the time and person power to be able to coordinate across many different entities.
Oh, Stephen, you want to add something?
Yeah, I'll add. So in the early days of lobbying for blue carbon in the U.S. government or the U.S. Congress, my advocates and I, we looked at sharing samples of legislation where blue carbon would be recognized. And obviously, I think now is the time to share international examples of where that legislation is being recognized in different countries so that we could, I guess, share that information. That would be a good practical thing to address your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Pak Yusuf, you want to say something? No? Okay. Is there any question from the floor? Okay, we have Atsushi and Hari. Okay, Atsushi first.
Yeah, thank you very much for the great panel. And I'm Atsushi Watanabe for the Sasaka Peace Foundation in Japan. So in Kim's presentation, I think you showed us the importance of a partnership between the private sector, government, and NGOs and the local communities. So my question is addressed to all of you because you are representing government, maybe NGO or IGOs, and private sector, maybe World Economic Forum is kind of. So we are not lacking local communities, so maybe it's good to include them next time. But I hope you can, I want to hear about your take on the importance of each role of the NGOs, government, or the NGOs in achieving the blue carbon economy. Yeah, so.
So you're
Yes,
asking
all of you.
to all of them.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's the importance of every stakeholders in the process of
Yes.
the carbon economy.
Yes,
Yeah.
kind of.
I think, yeah. What do you think about it?
I'll start. I'm holding a microphone closest to my face. Couldn't agree more. And I wanted to highlight some of our corporate engagement because I think that's one of the things that the forum hopes to bring to the conversation is avenues for that. But absolutely, I think every stakeholder group that you identified, of course, is essential. And communities and community-led projects are such a central part of success. And ultimately, these ecosystems are the community's ecosystems, and we need to make sure that they're able to be served by their ecosystems, and similarly, and that the communities are benefiting from any sort of investment that happens there. I think I will leave that to my colleagues who might have more to say on the community side, but just wanted to emphasize that in the National Blue Carbon Action Partnership framework, communities are central and will be part of the representation in that stakeholder group moving forward.
Okay, thank you, Emily.
I'll jump in. So you know, we're talking about, you know, some of these projects, the benefit sharing, but it's really that these communities and these ecosystems are already providing these benefits to us that we're recognizing. So we really need, and I will second, to put communities first and to make them active partners in these projects, you know, so that they can support these projects for the long-term sustainability. Now, every stakeholder should be involved because, you know, there's a role of civil society in making sure that the government keeps the promises that they're making on these activities. So I think we need to educate at all levels, but put the communities first. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
I can just add quickly. I mean, as you mentioned, I covered it in the presentation already, but certainly engaging stakeholders, full and effective engagement, inclusivity is sort of core to the DNA of UNDP, right? So our role in that is more about a convening role, you know, supporting countries to establish those platforms and fora where you can bring together the various perspectives. And in particular, in terms of certainly, you know, I come from the forest sector. We do quite a bit of that work in terms of working with local communities, indigenous peoples, engagement in the whole policy process, right? Not just at the end, but from the beginning and along each step of the way. So.
Thank you, Kim. Okay,
Thank you, Atsushi. I think the blue carbon is located in the local community coastline. So the local people, local communities should be inclusive for them. The first benefit should be them get the benefit from the blue carbon. But I think the blue carbon is the side benefit from the coastal ecosystem. It's just the side, but the biodiversity and abundance of the species in that ecosystem is a higher value than the blue carbon, I think so. I think the local people should be guided by the government and the NGO how to maintain the mangroves, higher value, again benefit the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Yusuf. Interesting.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Mas Hari, please.
First of all, thank you for very interesting presentation for our panelists. There are so many caveats when we are talking about carbon market. One of it is actually not when the money is not there, but when the money comes in. And when the money comes in to like trickle down to the communities, normally conflict happens. So maybe I would like to hear from each of you how and what mechanism that is in place to avoid that kind of conflict. And I would like also to ask Stephen one specific question. Actually, I'm intrigued to your statement when you say that the brokers for carbon market, they are like coyotes. And is there any mechanism from your end to tame these coyotes? At least I don't know if they are aware that carbon market is not only money. It is about conservation. It is about social justice and so on. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Stephen,
Okay,
okay. Go, Stephen.
Is that on?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go first. One, I did not say that the brokers were coyotes. I said that the community said that the brokers were coyotes. So please don't misquote me on that one. Okay. So where the money comes in and what mechanism? Well, you know, under the Plan Vivo standard, you have 60% of the revenue that's mandated towards community benefits. Under the Vera standard, it's a little bit more difficult to find out exactly what happens to those finances. I believe that right now, considering we only have about a dozen or so projects on the voluntary carbon market, is the time to look at these blue carbon projects and to look under the hood and to look at those financial allocations. I mean, honestly, that information is kind of difficult to find, but now is the time to look under the hood and see, are these projects actually delivering on the benefits that they're promising? And how are they actually treating the communities. So now's the time to take the community can take a step back and say, okay, fine, let's see and see if these projects can really put the money where their mouth is, so to speak. As far as mechanisms to avoid coyotes, I'm sorry, we don't really have that. The mechanism, in the national sense, should be the government, to protect communities from these predatory aspects of the market. And as I said in my presentation, the market is not there to govern these ecosystems. So we can't say the market's all bad. It's there to raise finance and revenue. Okay, so then we have to say, okay, fine, what's next? Then the government needs more information to understand these opportunities and these risks that the market presents, and then to manage these risks in a meaningful and accountable and verifiable way that maybe is not happening right now. You can quote me on that one.
You want to add something?
I may just add one piece that I think it's such an important point that you raise, and one of the parts of having a very high quality purse, as we're using this analogy from Pak, is that that is a key component of it, is making sure that the price that is incorporating those benefits that will go to the community. So I think, to your point, very well taken. And I would also point to some really excellent examples. I mean, I think Stephen provided such a wonderful example that had the flow diagram of how benefits were shared. Plan Vivo, of course, is known for doing such a wonderful work of making that very transparent. And of course, other wonderful examples of engagement with communities like Conservation International's work in Colombia. So I think we have wonderful examples, and now it's time that we continue to learn from those and scale. But point very important that you make there. Thanks for raising it.
I actually just have one thing to add. So yes, there's the principles and guidelines that were published, but also the Blue Forest Project, we released the Blue Carbon Code of Conduct. And we had about 40 or 50 groups sign on to this. This was a few years before the principles and guidelines, looking at reducing those risks to communities and making sure that they got a fair share. If you Google Blue Forests or Blue Carbon Code of Conduct, you'll be able to see that. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists. I have time for one more question. Is there any questions? Okay. Finally, there's a lady again.
Thank you. Let me first thank the presenters for their insightful and informative presentation. My name is Rihab. I'm from Sudan. And actually, it is evident that there is increase in temperature of the sea all over the world. And this was witnessed and investigated by the IPCC. And we have witnessed this in Red Sea area in Sudan because increase in the temperature caused mortality of the marine lives and bleaching of coral reefs and something like that. So I assume that this also happened in Indonesia. Very much interesting to hear about that. To what extent did the increase in the temperature affect the sea grasses in Indonesia? I thank you.
Thank you. I think that question will be for you, Pa.
Thank you from Sudan. The impact of the climate change for the seagrass, according to our experience in the field, some seagrass ecosystem became the biomass is lost, and some our coral reefs going to bleaching. So that is the impact of the climate change. So we have one book about how the impact of the climate change to the fisheries and coastal communities by the University of Columbia, I think. We have it. We can read that book, but I think the climate change in Indonesia is there's some impact. For example, the ground fishing is moving from the near the coast to the overseas. So this is the impact, and some impact to the storm and the webs. It's impact to the fisheries.
Okay, I think what Yusuf said that there's some impacts on our coastal ecosystem also, and also for the fishing grounds, especially because have some species that usually like have their own fishing grounds, they move further than their usual habitat. So yeah, that kind of impact also happen for us in Indonesia. And I think because I have a quote from the committee, and I think I can conclude our discussion for today. I think that's very interesting to know that there's a lot of mechanism actually when we are talking about blue carbon economy. So like Yusuf said, we want a branded bags, right? But not the ordinary one. We want Hermes, not the something else. So the challenge is how to build that. Yes, thank you. How to develop the framework and guidelines and apply it into the coastal community. How to so that they can be part of the blue carbon economy itself. So we don't want any day to be left behind and doesn't have anything. Uh, while their ecosystem is the one that is being sold, right? So I think let's conclude all. Thank you.